What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your show host over here at Fall Obsession. Appreciate everybody listening in. This week, my guest is a young man who is very quickly building a successful brand in the hunting and outdoor industry, Diego Otero. He's from New Mexico, and he is the guy behind MainBeam Addiction. We actually had him on our podcast a few years ago when he was an even younger guy. He was only 12 years old at the time, the youngest guest we've ever had on our show, talking about this brand that he was building with his dad. And we have him back on the show. Still a young man, but he is rocking and rolling very early on in life with an incredible hunting and outdoor brand. So we talk about MainBeam Addiction and some of the Western hunting opportunities that he got to do in 2023. And we get into all sorts of different talk about archery and just a really great conversation with a young guy who's got his level head on his shoulders, I guess you could say. So hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Before we get there, though, Hoot Camo podcast partner, the guys down here at Hoot in Texas, they manufacture camouflage gear that is some of the best quality stuff that I've ever worn. Patterns that are very, very functional in different environments. I've worn it in Texas. I've worn it in Colorado. I've worn it in tree stands. I've worn it in the snow. The gear holds up incredibly. The pattern works just unbelievably. So if you're looking to get into a good quality set of camouflage for a price that you can afford, that's the other big thing, and I know it. Go check out Hoot Camo, hootcamo.com, shop around, see what they have. You can also just pick up some of their everyday wear from their website, and if you are going to place an order, no matter how big or small, use the code FALLOBSESSION15 at checkout, and that will save you guys some money. Hoot Camo, go check them out. Elite Archery is also our bow sponsor over here at Fall Obsession. We've been shooting Elite for, I think we're going on our 6th year now running these bows, and just incredible products, incredible gear. I've been impressed with every Elite bow that I've had in my hand. So if you're wanting to take the Elite Shootability Challenge, I encourage you guys to go to your local dealer, put one in your hand, and see what you think for yourself. Compare it to other bows. Even Elite will tell you themselves that's the only way to know for sure if an Elite bow is the right bow for you. And I can sit here and talk about Elite as long as you want to, and you probably get tired of me doing it. But best thing you can do is go to a local dealer and take that shootability challenge. So Elite Archery, go check them out. They're a great friend and a great partner of Fall Obsession. The Outdoor Call Radio app is another podcast partner. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV. He has created an app for hunters and outdoorsmen that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. You will catch Fall Obsession podcast playing on that loop on Mondays, the same day as our new publications, as well as tons of other hunting shows and podcasts that we all know and love. So go download the Outdoor Call Radio app today. It is free, and you can start streaming immediately. And make sure that you're following Outdoors Dan on social media because he does some local Midwestern radio shows throughout the week, and he shares those live broadcasts on his Facebook Live if you are not local to those radio stations. So the Outdoor Call Radio app, go download it and go follow Outdoors Dan on social media. Finally, Ridge Rock Hunt Company is another podcast partner. Derek Eves over there in Mississippi. He books hunts with vetted outfitters across the country. So if you're looking for that next adventure, maybe that once-in-a-lifetime hunt you've been saving up for, give Derek a call. He'll work with you on all the details and figure out something that is right for you, depending on what you're looking for. So Ridge Rock Hunt Company, go check them out. Last but not least, thank you guys for listening to a podcast. I appreciate your support of the Fall Obsession brand. Be sure that you're following Fall Obsession on all the major social media platforms, that you have subscribed to this podcast on whatever platform you are currently listening on. If you can turn those notifications on, if that's an option, please do that. Go watch our shows on Carbon TV, this podcast, Texas Dirt, Midwest Mindset, Couch Chats. Those are all Fall Obsession produced shows that are on Carbon TV. And head on over to the website, fallobsession.com, explore around, see all of our educational content on there, and maybe pick you up some apparel, support a small-time hunting brand. We always appreciate it. And if you maybe represent your own brand in the hunting and outdoor industry and you're interested in partnering with us for this show or another part of our platforms, you can reach us at fallobsession.com/podcast. There's a form on there you guys can fill out that'll put you in touch with us. And don't forget to go sign up for the turkey hunt competition. I almost forgot to mention it. But the turkey hunt competition here at Fall Obsession is going on right now in 2024. You can hunt turkeys like you normally would anywhere else. And register, sign up for the contest. You can win money, you can win memberships, you can win gear. There's raffles. We're raffling off a hog hunt, all sorts of crazy stuff going on with that. So if you're hunting turkeys in 2024, you need to be signed up for the turkey hunt competition. Go to fallobsession.com and you will easily find it from there. That's it. We're going over to our episode with Diego. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast. I'm Sam, your host once again, and this week my host is the guy from MainBeam Addiction himself, Diego. What's up, man?
How's it going?
Good, man. Good to have you back on the show. It's been a long time.
Yes, sir. There's been some changes. I know we were just talking about it, so it's pretty sweet to get to do it all again.
Yeah, for sure. So for our listeners that might not have listened to Fall Obsession podcast during the origin stages of our podcast, we launched this show in spring of 2020, and I think fall of 2020, episode 38, if I recall, is when we had you on the show last. So it's been well over 3 years.
It's been a while. Yes, sir.
Yeah. But awesome to have you back on, man. I want to give you the chance. I know some of this a little bit might be repetitive of the previous time you were on the show just because it's been so long. But for our listeners that haven't listened to episode 38 all the way back then, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself and just let people know kind of who you are and what you're doing over there.
So my name's Diego Otero, of course. You had already said that, but I started MainBeam Addiction whenever I was 8 years old, and I've had it for a couple years now. And I started it just to push hunting to the youth in the outdoors, try to get them out there because we're the future, and we got to make an impact, or there's not going to be no hunting for the younger generation.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I know last time we recorded, it was super cool to see somebody, of your age going at this thing and going at an outdoor brand in the industry, so mission oriented and so strategically, it seemed to me. But one of the things I want to talk to you about, because at the time, how old are you now? Let me start with that.
I'm 15.
You're 15 now. So I think at the time we recorded last, you were 11 or 12.
Right.
So you were starting this thing super, super young, man, which is awesome. But in that amount of time, 3+ years at this point, what have been some of the big milestones for the MainBeam brand? What has changed?
So here, I'm going to go back a little bit more in time.
Yeah.
Where I started. But so like I said, I was super young when I started. I think I was in 3rd grade, and I had just drew up a little tiny design of a Euro mount buck that was sitting in my uncle's house, and I started it up. My parents being as supportive as they are, I took them the design. They looked at it, and they were like, well, Diego, if that's what you want to do, then let's do it. So we got a few hats, a few shirts, and some embroidered hats, and I took it to our local county fair, and it did really, really good. Everybody was supportive of it, and my parents were like, well, let's grow it a little bit more, being the supportive parents they are, like I said. And so from there, I kind of started MainBeam, and it's pretty cool to see how it's grown from now to then. I remember I was just going back into my first post were like 14 likes, 15 likes, and now we're getting up there in likes. And honestly, it's super cool just to see how much it's grown.
That's awesome. So you talk about wanting to, influence and get young hunters out there, and have an impact on other young hunters like yourself. How do you guys go about doing that?
So I've done a lot with the National Wild Turkey Federation here in New Mexico. I've tried to get into it as much as that. Right now I'm waiting on a class here in New Mexico to where I can go and be a youth instructor for New Mexico Game and Fish.
Awesome.
To where I can actually be there more with the kids and help out a lot with that. So that's super sweet. I've been to a couple. We have a couple livestock foundation shoots down here where I just get to meet a bunch of kids, and it's just a skeet shoot and walk around with them, talk hunting a little bit, and of course I do a lot of podcasts like this to where I try to push it out there, get youth in the outdoors, and that's about it. I hope hopefully we can. I'm trying to start up a YouTube channel here so that it can get out there because I know right now that's a big thing that's going on is YouTube. So I'm gonna try to start there so that we can just push it out there more because, like I said, we're the future. So
Yeah.
gotta get it out there somehow.
Yeah, no, YouTube and just social media with reels and everything right now. That's and I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but that's the big push right now for the past couple years and where everything seems to be focused on. So that's awesome if you're able to tap into that for sure.
Yes, sir.
What so I've noticed like following your page, following your journey. It seemed like this past show season you were pretty active out there, and you want to tell me a little bit about just kind of what you were doing as far as the 2024 show season or even before that.
Yes, sir. So it's like I said, it's super sweet how I pushing the youth in the outdoors, and it's awesome how many companies have hopped on board with me and just like had faith in me and what my plan was, and we've kind of collaborated. Like I've got some big companies that are pushing it, and I thought it was super cool. Velvet Antler Technologies. I was one of they had sent me out. It's called Bone Bright. So I don't know if you've seen, but I do a lot of European mounts for people and just local stuff. Well, they were just coming out with that Bone Bright product. It was in I don't even know if I still have the bottle, but it wasn't even their full design bottle. It was just like a hairspray bottle with some of the stuff in it, and I pushed it and I told him it's a great product. I was probably 12 or 13 at the time. I wasn't very old, and I did the whole Euro by myself. And about 2 weeks later, they launched the product, and there was like 3 or 4 different kids that were spraying that Bone Bright on their skulls and doing that. And I was like, heck yeah, that's super awesome that they have youth doing it. So that was a big one. The show season, I actually got to go out with Initial Ascent. This was the second year going to Utah, and I just went out there, networked with a bunch of people, talked with all the people on that I've talked to on Instagram. It was awesome to finally get to talk to people face to face.
Yeah.
Met a bunch of awesome people out there. Talked to people I'd already met. So I was out in Utah for I think it was a 3-day show, and I just got to have a lot of fun. Crispy Boots was there, so I got to have a good conversation with them. Muley Maniacs. That's what's holding my phone right now is a Muley Maniacs tripod, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, it was just that was the only big show I went to, and then I came back home and came to the New Mexico one. It kind of sucked because the New Mexico hunting and game and fishing show was at the exact same time as Utah, so I wanted to set up a booth here local, but they did it at the same time as Utah, and I already committed to all the companies that work with me, so I was like, sorry, New Mexico, but we'll make it happen next year. And me and my dad flew back the last day of the New Mexico one so I could get out there and just go film some videos for our local archery shop and do all that stuff. So it was pretty cool. We made it work.
That's awesome. So, being a kid your age, how does it factor in, or how do you manage it with school and all the other stuff that you have going on? The normal stuff that kids have to do your age.
Yes, sir. So I was actually going to regular school this year. I'm a freshman in high school, so I went half a semester, and I was like, you know, I need to get an education and do something so that I can have that better me help in the business part for MainBeam. So I actually went to the first semester my freshman year, and I was like, Mom and Dad, I need to get homeschooled or something so that I can push MainBeam more and still do all my activities and be able to travel a lot more. And that's one thing with school is some schools don't like hunting very much and leaving school for hunting. And my parents are very I don't know how to say it, die hard on that stuff. Like my dad, get kids in the outdoors, and that's a lot of it. So I got homeschooled actually, and I've been doing that, and it's a lot better for me now that I've been homeschooled. It was a great decision actually. I've been able to get out on the mountain a lot more, and I've been able to help out my grandparents, and I've been learning a lot more. I actually started welding a lot right after I got out of school, and it's just great. So that's how I manage it a lot. School was a big factor on taking up a lot of my time. But when I get homeschooled, I wake up early in the morning, go feed my show animals, get my school done, and then the rest of the day I take care of whatever business I need to take care of, MainBeam wise, and then baseball practice and do the same thing over.
It's a grind, even
Yes,
even
sir.
at a young age. It's all about discipline with stuff like that, especially when you're trying to grow a brand.
Yes, sir.
So you're pretty involved then with the not that you wouldn't be, but you're pretty involved with the business side of everything, and I'm imagining the numbers and the analytics and all the strategery, if you will, that goes behind that. It sounds like you're
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
pretty into it.
So I ship all my packages out of, my mom and dad own a local tractor store here in New Mexico. So I ship all my packages out of there. So it's for sure a whole family thing. Like I said, I got a lot of support from my parents, and I probably wouldn't be able to do MainBeam as much as I do if it wasn't for them. So
Oh yeah,
I appreciate them a lot too.
that's awesome, man. So let's talk a little bit of hunting, because one quick look at your social media pages, and I'm looking at elk, I'm looking at bear, I'm seeing all sorts of awesome stuff from this past season. Tell me a little bit about fall of 23.
So last year I had a quest, and it was called the Quest of Cinco. I had gotten 5 tags last year. I was very fortunate, and so that was the quest for Cinco. So I drew an Oryx tag, an off-range Oryx tag here in New Mexico. I had an archery elk tag here in New Mexico. I had gotten an OTC bear tag here in New Mexico. What else? What else I had? I had the whitetail, and then I had a Barbary hunt here in New Mexico, a Barbary sheep tag. So it started off with the Oryx tag in August, and August is a really, really busy month for me and my sister because same exact time as county fair here. So we were trying to get show animals ready to go, and it's a month-long hunt. The off-range Oryx hunt is here in New Mexico. So me and my dad were able to slip away the weekend before county fair. We had one day to do it, and the whole entire day we hadn't seen no Oryx. Off-range is a little bit hard here in New Mexico compared to on-range, because on-range there's a lot more Oryx there. But if you get after it, you can find them. Well, me and my dad found them about, I'd say, an hour and a half before sunset. Me and my dad got on some Oryx. There's 2 of them, and we were lucky enough to be able to stalk in on them. Got a 500-yard shot, and I was able to put an Oryx in the dirt that night, and I was very fortunate for that one, and thank God a lot for that one, because we had one day to do it, and that was the only day we got to do it, and we put one in the dirt. And next week we're at county fair showing the goats. So that was the start of it. Had gotten 1 of 5 on the quest for Cinco. Like I said, we're super busy with our livestock animals. So during my elk hunt, we were at state fair with the goats. So me and my dad had set up cameras before checking out, and there was elk. There had been no elk on the unit we were hunting, and out of nowhere they popped up. And of course, it was whenever we were sitting at the state fair about 30 minutes before we had to walk our goats in the show ring. There was elk all over the place on our game cameras, because
Wow.
we have cell cameras. So it was sending them over, and me and dad were just looking at each other, like shaking our heads. But that's the way it goes sometimes. So after state fair, me and my dad got out there. It was a tough hunt. I think we went about 3 weekends in a row, and there was nothing. It was like ghost town. The elk were gone. And I think we had, the last weekend we were out there, me and dad went, and first bugle we hit, there was a bull within 100 yards of us, and it's super flat land. The unit we were hunting, super flat land, and it's just trees. And me and dad dove into the trees, and sure enough, he came in at 40 yards, shot him with my bow. That was my first archery kill. There was a lot of preparation to that hunt. That was for sure one of the hunts we worked a lot harder for, because we knew we had the elk in there. We just needed to find them, and we found them. Shot that bull at 40 yards with my bow as first archery kill. One of the sweetest things. I told dad this year I'm putting the rifle away, going straight archery this year. So
First archery kill ever?
first archery kill ever was that bull.
Holy smokes, man, that's crazy.
Yes, sir.
So I don't want to slow the roll down here, going through the 23 year, but I have some questions based on some of the stories that you're telling, and I definitely want to dive into this archery thing, because that's exciting to me.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
But before we get that, going back to you said it was an Oryx, right?
Yes, sir.
Going back to that real quick, educate me a little bit, along with probably some of our listeners at least, because I'm from Texas. I'm not familiar
Right.
with, I think the terms you used were on range and off range. What does
Yes,
that
sir.
mean?
So on range is the military base. So those hunts they're only so they're 3-day hunts, but sometimes so it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal. But sometimes they're flying the planes and all the military stuff on
Uh,
Friday. So sometimes you're not lucky enough to hunt Friday, and sometimes it's only Saturday, Sunday. And so off range is like you have the whole month to go. Most of the off range ones are the whole month, and you have the whole month to go. And August is hard because it's super hot. So if you kill one, you want to get them, as fast as you can off, so that you don't spoil meat. So it's or no, not August. I'm sorry. The September hunt is when it's super hot, but
yeah,
it's hot here in New Mexico, of course.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, so we call them Oryx, but they're actually called Gemsbuck, I think is the correct term from them. But like they came from Africa, so they
Yeah,
weren't already here in New Mexico.
I got you. The other
Yes,
question I
sir.
had about that, you said you made a 500-yard shot on
Yes,
that
sir.
animal. I, obviously, you're very proficient with a firearm, if that's the case. But I'm
There.
impressed, man. You're 15 years old and you're shooting like that. What kind of preparation or what kind of range time, I guess, are you putting in, to be proficient at that range?
Me and Dad, we go shoot a lot. We go shoot still a lot. So we'll go shoot still like I don't know how often enough to where I know I'm comfortable making that shot. So
Yeah.
we're out there getting in. We don't just like show up and be ready to shoot. I for sure put in the preparation before that, like you said, to make sure to where I know I can harvest that animal and make sure it's a lethal shot.
Yeah. What kind of firearm setup are you running for that?
I shoot a 7 WSM, and it's no light rifle. It's for sure brute. When me and my dad built it for me, I was probably 10 or 11 whenever we did our first podcast. So it's a 15-pound rifle.
Wow.
It's a super heavy rifle, but it shoots like I don't know. It shoots pretty sweet. That's all I can say. And
Oh, for
it
sure.
has zero recoil because we built it to where it wasn't gonna thump me. And of course now it's super heavy. Now we have two 7 WSMs, and Dad has one and I have one. And sometimes we just leave. Its name's Gina, my 7 WSM, and sometimes we just leave Gina here at the house and take my dad's 7 WSM because his is. I think my dad's is 7.5 pounds, but mine's about 15 pounds with everything in it and ready to roll. It's a heavy rifle for
Wow.
sure.
That's crazy, man. That's awesome. All right, now I get to dive into my world, which is archery, and ask you some archery questions and stuff like that. But um, first bow kill is on an elk in that situation. How far did you say? 40 yards, 40 something yards?
Yes, sir.
Wow. So what's going through your mind when you have an elk that far away and you've never killed anything with a bow?
Well, I've been my dad actually guided here in New Mexico a lot before I got into hunting a lot. My dad was a big guide, and when he started getting me into hunting, he was like, "Nope, I want to focus on you and your sister and your guys' hunts, so no more guiding for me." But I've been on a lot of hunts with my dad, and so I've gotten to experience it. So I kind of knew how it was going to go down and how everything was going to work. I had never been behind the bow before, like I said though, so it was a lot different than just sitting there watching them call them in and them coming in. But all I remember is he was bugling his head off for sure. And my dad was a little bit behind me, so my dad told me right here in this tree and just be ready to roll. And I won't forget how much I was shaking. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna hit this elk right now. If I try to shoot it, I'm probably gonna shoot 20 yards over it. So I'm sitting there ranging everything, like trying to figure out my ranges. And this elk comes out of the spot I never would have thought he was going to come out of. And he stops broadside, and I'm still like, oh shoot, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he went behind some trees, and I was like, okay, draw, draw. And all I remember is sitting there watching my broadhead. It was going back and forth like 1,000 miles an hour because I was shaking so bad. And he went behind those trees. I drew back, and my dad had totally quit calling because he knew the elk was close, but he didn't want to pull him in more or anything if he was there. And he came out of those trees. I hit him with a little noise, and he stopped right there. And I let it fly, and I couldn't see where it hit him. But whenever he flipped and turned around, I seen my broadhead coming out the other side of him, right behind his shoulder, and I was going crazy. My dad's trying to call to see where it is because my dad was probably 20 or 30 yards behind me. And he jumps up over the berm. Did you get him? Did you get him? And that was probably one of the coolest moments that I've had with my dad for sure on a hunt. I won't forget that one because my dad was a big bow hunter before I started getting into it. But whenever my parents had me and my sister, my dad kind of chilled down on it a little bit and had it in a while. And I my dad had always told me the stories of the last bull he had killed with his bow, and I was so excited for that hunt. And finally, when it happened, it was a big deal between me and my dad. And we tracked the blood down and found my bull, and it was probably it's probably top 5 of my favorite hunts for sure.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's something you never forget for sure.
Oh yeah,
I
I won't forget it for sure.
that's an awesome experience to have as your first bow kill too. It's just
Right, and an elk too. That was pretty crazy for it to be an elk. I was pretty amped up.
the cool thing, because another comment you made was that you're thinking about going bow only. Is that what I heard?
Yes, sir. Yeah, this year I here in New Mexico I only put in for archery tags.
Yeah.
I think I put in for one rifle tag for deer, and that was it. Everything else I went straight archery because this year is gonna be with my bow.
Man, what's really cool, and so I went bow only 11 years ago.
Okay.
I just and I know our listeners are probably, they've heard me say this before. They might be tired of me saying it, but the I shot my best whitetail buck ever in my life, and I shot him with a rifle. But it
Really?
was so easy that I was like, I was doing both. I was bow hunting and rifle hunting at the time. I was like, you know
Right.
what? I'm going bow only, and I haven't gone back. Um, and it is, you can, like, whatever your animal is, it can be elk, it can be deer, it can be whatever. If that's the animal that you hunt all the time and you're super comfortable with a bow, man, going and doing something else and killing something else with your bow, it's like reliving that feeling you just experienced, that first bow kill,
Sure.
all over again. And for example, I hunt whitetails down here in Texas, and last year I shot my very first mule deer, and I shot him with a bow in Colorado, and it felt like my first deer all over again. It was
Right.
so crazy. So I'm excited for you for that, because you're gonna, if you put in the work and you go all in on the bow, man, you're gonna experience some crazy stuff. You're gonna have some lows too. You're gonna have some
Right. Well,
disappointments in the
don't
field,
don't.
but
That's what I was gonna say. Is don't worry. I got pretty. I'll get into it, but I got lucky with the quest for Cinco. I actually had gotten an extra tag, and I'll talk about that one in a little bit. And I may or may not have missed a pretty big coos buck at the
oh
beginning of this
man.
year in Arizona with my bow. So I've felt the highs and the lows, and I take the highs over the lows a lot. But the lows are good too. Gotta teach you some lessons.
Yes, you 100% learn well from the lows. But well, that's awesome, man. So I don't, like I said, I didn't wasn't trying to derail the flow of everything, but I, before we got too far away from them, I wanted to ask some questions about those two hunts. But so we got those first two done. What happened after the elk?
So my third one was actually that OTC bear tag, and me and my dad. So we were actually on a muzzleloader mule deer hunt with one of our buddies, and it was during bear season. But me and my dad, neither of us had, or I don't know if it was during bear season. Bear season was coming up, and none of us had tags for bears or nothing. But my dad had glassed up a really big black bear whenever we were out there on that hunt, and we were like, okay, let's go get a bear tag, see if we could get one. I had planned on it. I've already killed. I think we had talked about this one in the previous podcast, but I had already killed a big bear in Wisconsin in 2020. So that I had already killed one big bear. So I was like, I want to kill a New Mexico bear. I think that'd be really cool. So talk about a grind. This hunt, like I said, I'd say the elk hunt was probably the longest grind throughout the year for sure on trying to locate bulls and everything, but this one was for sure the hardest we hit during the actual season. And so me and my dad started getting after it, and we would get on top of the mountain, start glassing right before sunrise, and there would be that same bear. And we had finally I don't know, I can't remember what we had named him, but we had a little bit of a name for him, and it was this big black bear. He would always be on his way up. And so if me and dad dropped off if we dropped off the mountain we were on and then tried to go after him, he would have already been gone by then because he was always at the top. When the sun came up, he was already at the top.
Huh.
And so me and Dad, every morning we try to get a little bit closer and be out there a little bit earlier. And at this time, I was still going to regular school, so I couldn't get off. So it was only weekends. And I actually wrote a story for Eastman's Hunting Journal on this one. And I think I had said we were out. It was 8 weekends straight that me and Dad went out there. And the only time we got close was on the seventh weekend. We had finally got close, but it was still a farther shot that I didn't. I think we had him at like 800 or 900 yards, and I was like, I'm not going to shoot at him at that far, especially not on a bear. So we let him go that time, and me and Dad we were stuck on that big black bear. We had seen a few other bears, but that big black one was the one we wanted, and we had gotten a wild hare to go up a different drainage and see if we could find a different bear because that one was always beating us to the top. So that last weekend, me and Dad went out, and finally we found a big brown cinnamon bear, and I think that's the one that's on my. He's not really a cinnamon bear. He's got a lot of color to him though. He's pretty cool for a New Mexico bear. We beat that one we had just caught him. He was going up, but we had caught him halfway up, and that was another fun hunt. That was one video me and Dad have on video of we had him on the all-in. We were able to get the kill shot. We were able to get the angle. So I took the time to try and get that one all on video, and it's a pretty sweet video. I don't know if they've seen it. I haven't posted that video at all. I don't know why I haven't, but Instagram doesn't like the kill shots very much on that one, but I'll have to send you that video. But I was able to get that one done, and that was a farther shot too. I think it was 650 or something like that, but same 7 WSM. And I shot him, and I was going crazy. I was like, we finally got him.
Wow.
We were on the bear grind for so long, and what I told this story was King of the Mountain, because that bear that's what we had named him, King of the Mountain, because those bears were always beating us to the top, and finally we beat him to the top. And I will talk about a gnarly pack out. We were in some of the steepest country. My elk wasn't even as bad as this one. We were in some steep country, and I think we killed him about 8 o'clock in the morning. Me and my dad didn't get back to the truck until sunset. So it was about, I don't know what time sun was setting then, but that tells you that we were out there for a long time.
Yeah, that's a grind for sure. Holy smokes,
yeah,
man.
The bear was a fun one for sure.
That's awesome. You talking about having that on video and your earlier mention of wanting to get a YouTube up and going. That sounds like a great video to start a YouTube channel with.
Right. It would be a good video, especially, and I know there's been a few people that have done it, but it was actually, I've been under dogs a lot. So when I shot my bear in Wisconsin, it was with dogs.
Yeah.
And I've been under bear trees here in New Mexico with dogs, and I'll tell you what, if you want a challenging hunt, I couldn't imagine it with a bow. But if you want a challenging hunt, do OTC bear here in New Mexico, and it'll humble you a little bit, especially spot and stock with no dogs on it. You're chasing the tail end of a bear the whole time.
Yeah. No, I believe it. Man, we had a guest on our show, I don't know, probably 8-10 weeks ago. It's episode 175 in our archive, but a guy went on an Arizona bear hunt, and it was with dogs. And it's one for anybody tuning into this that, likes a good bear hunting story. It's one to go listen to, because they ended up getting this big old boar up in a cave, and the hunter ended up getting attacked by him as the bear came out of the cave. He latched onto his leg. It's an absolutely insane story. He got the bear, but it's one of those things. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. So.
Right. Yeah, no, we've been on some, there in Wisconsin, we've been on some bears that were on the ground, and they're no good, but that's the way it is sometimes. And hunting with hounds it's a lot of fun too in New Mexico. Hunting with hounds doesn't make, spot and stock's hard, but even hunting with hounds is still hard. It's really cool to watch the dogs work on that too. So
yeah.
I'll be looking forward to that one here in July when we head up to Wisconsin to put the pups to work and train them up there. So
that's awesome. All right, so we got 3 down. Where are we going after the bear?
Right. So this was actually pretty cool because I shot my bear in the same week I shot my first whitetail in Illinois. So
awesome.
we have some, through bear hunting and my uncle, all my family, we have a lot of friends throughout, so we're lucky enough to be able to go hunt out in Illinois. But so we went out there last year, and I'll tell you what, Illinois, it's a different type of cold up there compared to New Mexico. That wind was
Yeah.
going straight through. It didn't matter what camo I had on, how many layers I had on. It was going straight through me the first year we went up there. And this last year wasn't as cold, but it was still cold. And tell you what, it's a little bit different hunting whitetail than it is here out west trying to spot and stalk and all this stuff. When you're sitting in a blind all day waiting for bucks and does, whatever it is, to come in, it's a little bit harder for us out here to go up there and do that, but it was worth it. I was lucky enough last year. I had one whitetail that came in last year when we were up there in Illinois, and my gun, I had never shot. So up there, I don't know how to word it, but up there you can only shoot, I think it's straight board rifles, so it can't actually be, or maybe it's not straight board, but it has to be a pistol round, of course. And so I've shot in an AR before and an AR-15 and all that, and shot those platforms, but I wasn't paying attention on how to use that gun in Illinois because we were using one of our buddies' guns up there the first year, and my gun actually went click on a real big whitetail the first year I was up there. So I was a little devastated about that one and sad about it. But this year, I figured out what I was doing with the gun. I shot it before, so I knew what I was doing. And sure enough, opening morning, we were out there, and big buck came in. I was able to harvest him. Big whitetail for me, of course, never seen one before. I was able to harvest him with Dad by my side. Like I said, it's a lot colder up there, and I don't know if it's cooler to see that elk coming in there in those mountains here in New Mexico, or to see a big old whitetail come out smashing all the trees in his way here in this field. It's for sure an experience compared to hunting down here, like I said.
Yeah, man,
So
it's so funny because it's like two contrasting worlds in my opinion almost. You have people, myself included, that are just born and bred whitetail hunters, and
right,
the big dream is always going out west, for whatever it might be, elk, mule deer, you name it. And then Western hunters that get those opportunities much more regularly, the foreign thing to them is sitting in a stand and whitetail hunting, and that kind of
right,
thing.
for
And it's
sure.
just it's so it's so interesting, the contrast that you have out there. And even like us, we went up to Colorado last year and hunted flatland in eastern Colorado,
Right,
and we're getting frustrated and stuff, and we're like, well, let's just, I'm from Texas. I'm hunting with is from the Midwest. It's just like, well, let's just go throw a stand over in that clump of trees right there. I mean, that's just it was our, whitetail hunting was trying to shine through, even though,
right.
that's not how you primarily hunt out there. So I always find that interesting, that contrast. But
Yep. Well, and then they're in it's a lot different too. And it's crazy how the land is different from here in New Mexico to there too, because you're hunting public land here in New Mexico, all over, whatever. There's private land here too, of course, but you're hunting public land. You have a lot of room. There in Illinois, we're hunting on farms where people are next to each other. And it's crazy just how kind the people are out there. Like I killed my buck. We take him, and there's like one of our buddies. I guess that's the place to go in Illinois. And it's crazy because you'll take your buck, and everybody will be there. We'll all have dinner in that same shack, skin the deer together, and it's a whole big family. It feels like they're whitetail hunting to where it is here in New Mexico. And I'm sure it's still like that here, but there it's just crazy how everybody comes together. And like, I thought it was pretty sweet up there. All the kids, all the parents up there, and all the landowners, they're like, let's all get the kids deer first, and then we'll take care of everybody else. And everybody's just helping everybody out up there because all the farms are close together. Like, hey, I seen that buck on my camera. Oh yeah, I have him on my camera too. It's just cool how it is up there, for
it's
sure.
it's all in the kind of culture that you promote in your own hunting camp or hunting community, whatever's applicable. Because you I agree with you. Like, down here in our hunting camp on our place down here in Texas, it's the same way. One guy kills a deer, everybody's out there, helping
Right.
out. And it's
Don't matter if it's a fork or a
yeah, it
200-inch whitetail, same
yeah,
thing.
it don't matter. But the flip side of it is, I've gotten to meet a lot of people through this show, and one of them being a guy named Kurt Geyer. He's the host of the Working Class Bowhunter podcast. He was on our show, and he talked about the flip side of some stuff out in the Midwest and how, some people are just cutthroat out there. And I've seen it down here in Texas too, where, you run into some people sometimes that are just, they don't want anything to do with you. They don't want you hunting anywhere near their place, you name it. And so it comes down to, the culture that you promote. And we're all hunters, as long as nobody's doing anything illegal or anything they shouldn't be doing, man. I mean, we got to be happy for each other and, promote a good hunting culture in our local areas. So,
yeah. And like you said, we're a big hunting community. We need to all come together and, I mean, fight the fights we need to. We can't, oh, you're a whitetail hunter, I'm an elk hunter from west. I don't like you. We need it. It don't matter what you hunt. It doesn't matter what rifle you use, what you hunt, what camo you wear. We all need to come together. And I think that's one of the big deals I talked about. I did a video on I can't remember what bill it was, but like everybody needs to come together and fight these fights. I think it was on the California one. Like it don't matter what camo you wear, like I said, what caliber, we just all need to come together. We're all hunters. If we want to keep it around for future generations, we need to come together and fight the fight together.
Yeah, I podcasted 2 weeks ago, and you may have heard of them, the Howl for Wildlife guys,
right? Yep.
That are very vocal right now in the conservation advocacy space. I podcasted with them, and it was a great episode. But yeah, it's more important than ever because even something that impacts you out there in New Mexico as a hunter. For me, being in Texas, I might not have any plans right now to hunt in New Mexico, but it impacts me more than I realize because whatever's going on out there is being done by the same people who are going to go to North Carolina over some other little issue and then up to Indiana and then down here to Texas. It's just, there's ways that we can support each other through that too. And even if you're, if we're not local in each other's states or stuff like that. And I won't get into that in this podcast, but that's one to go listen to that episode on for sure and check out Howl for Wildlife and other organizations like that because they're doing great things in that space. So,
yep.
All right, so where are we at? What have we got? We got an elk, we got a bear, we got a whitetail, we got an oryx. So
right, so that was 4. So now on 5. So my 5th one, like I said, was actually a Barbary sheep hunt. And that was in February of this year. But I'll go back. I'll speed back a little bit. Whenever we were talking about the highs and lows of bow hunting,
yeah,
Antler Canyon Outfitting. I was lucky enough to be able to get one of the OTC archery tags in Arizona. So we went with Antler Canyon. Toby, he's a good guy. Super awesome people. If you guys want to check them out, they're awesome. Antler Canyon. And so we actually went out with them. Never hunted Arizona before. My dad never hunted it before. But I was like, all right, coos deer next or mule deer, whatever it was, because I think the unit we were hunting in Arizona, the quota for mule deer had already shut down and it was just coos deer. And we have a few coos deer here in New Mexico, but of course there's not as much as there is in Arizona. So we got out there right away. Toby and his boys got us on coos deer right away. And the first day we seen a good amount of coos, but nothing. I didn't care how big they were. Archery on that elk hunt, I was like, Dad, I don't care how big this bull is. If it's legal, I'm shooting it. Getting my first archery. That's I don't know trophy hunting about all that stuff. I'm there to harvest the animal and have a good time. I don't care about the size. Sometimes now that I've gotten a little bit older, I understand it. I remember when I was little, if it was legal, I was shooting it. But now, of course, I want to let stuff grow, let it get bigger, take a mature animal, and so whenever we were out there, like I said, we seen a few coos the first day. Me and my dad actually got on a stalk the first day on a coos deer, and we were able to get 88 yards from one.
Wow.
And he had already had his pinpointed. I think me and my dad were already like 2 miles in on the stalk, and he had us pinpointed at 88 yards. There was nothing we could do, so we were trying to wait him out, and finally one of his does just like flickered off, and he was gone with him. And the guys there, they were like, holy smokes, we haven't had someone get that close to a coos deer in a long time. So that was pretty good for first day. So we were like, okay, first day we got pretty close. Second day out there, we were out there. We had spotted it was a big coos deer. The guys out there, they were like, that's one of the biggest coos deer that we've seen in a while out here. So me and Dad put a stalk on him, and we were chasing after him. And this is in the rut for coos, and there was coos deer flying left and right and left and right. And this buck was coming into us like perfect. Me and my dad were like going over, and me and my dad had just went. It was just me and him, because one of Toby's guys was sitting back, and he didn't know we were on that deer, so he was sitting back, couldn't see, so he couldn't know. But where me and Dad had last seen that buck drop in, we had crawled in, and we were like, this buck's gonna be 20 yards away and be able to smoke him right here. And we came over the top, and there was nothing there, and we were like, dang it, where'd he go? Well, they were moving around so much, like I said, in the rut, there was bucks all over the place, does flying all over the place. Well, finally, we had watched that buck bed down with a doe, and there was a little fork that kept coming up because we were just watching, and the wind wasn't very good at all for us. So we just sat back and watched, and this big buck and his doe, they would bed down, and this little fork would come up and mess with the buck. Buck would jump up and run off and chase that little guy off, so the doe would get up and move, and they started getting farther and farther and farther. So finally, my dad was like, "All right, let's just go after him, see what happens." And he's a big coos deer. He was pretty big to me. The guys were saying he was big, and they see a lot of them. So we stalked in on him. We got, I don't know, I think we were about 200 yards out, and my dad was like, the wind is horrible. Our best bet is just to be as quiet as we can, see what happens. We knew where he was bedded down, but we didn't have eyes on him, of course, so we didn't know if he was moving or not. So we took our Crispies off. We went straight socks, and I'll tell you what, that was brutal in Arizona. Dropping our boots and going 200 yards, and we were crawling in there. And out of nowhere, my dad sees the doe. The doe just jumps up, and the buck's like nowhere to be seen, but the doe jumps up and takes off running. And this buck stands up. It was 54 yards is when my dad was ranging, and he was in the grass. There was nothing behind him. So my dad was ranging just straight sage. So my dad would be like, 64. And I would move my sight, because he finally had stood up after that doe ran off. He stood up. My dad first ranger, he was like 64. And then he was like 42. 53, because his rangefinder was going crazy because he couldn't finally get a range. Finally, he got a good range. Told me 52, and I shot on that coos deer, and I was shooting severed broadheads, so they were the expandables. If I was shooting a fixed blade broadhead, I for sure would have gave him a haircut. I probably missed him by about an inch, and then those coos deer are so jumpy. I for sure missed him. It wouldn't have been a great shot, but he jumped the string, and I missed him. I was so devastated on that one after killing my elk and then missing that coos deer. I was like, dang it. But it was a sad walk back to my Crispies without anything on. I went and found my arrow. I walked back in my socks, and I could for sure feel the steps I was taking whenever I just missed a coos deer, to where whenever we were stalking in on one, it felt like nothing. I can feel nothing because the adrenaline. But on the way back, it was a little sad, but like you said, that's the way it goes sometimes, and that'll teach me next time. Maybe I don't know what I did. Maybe I could have pulled off whatever happened, but I won't forget that shot for sure. I remember it just flying right over his back, and I was like, dang it. But I think that miss has probably made me just want to – now I just want to get back out there and try to get a coos deer. Now with my bow, it lit a fire inside of me is what it did. Yeah. For sure. For a second there, I was like, why am I shooting a bow? And then I was like, no. And now I got it figured out. We'll go back there again and hopefully get a coos deer on the ground. So I'll be excited for that one. But that was an add-on to the Cinco. So I got super lucky with that one that we were able to get a tag, because the sight actually crashed on my dad. Whenever we were trying to get the tags for the OTC, it crashed on him. And when he got back on, he said there was like 12 tags left whenever I got my tag. They only give out I don't know how many they give out, but it's a limited amount. So it was an add-on, and it was for sure. We were there for 3 days. So after that miss, we had one more day, but me and Dad, we drove there. So we had to drive back home to get me back for, I think baseball tryouts were coming up, or baseball preseason. So I had to get back. So we came back, but that was for sure. I won't forget the miss. I'll probably remember the miss more than I remember getting my elk, just cause I said it's missed, but we'll get after it.
Yeah, you remember the misses for sure, man. Like they stick with you. Some of them sting worse than others. I had one this past year that that stung worse than many have for the past 11 years for sure, and it was a tough one to get over. But the they all make you a better archer in the long run, and
Right.
it definitely, it like you said, it lights a fire under you. It gets you back on the range. It gets you working through reps, and it makes the successes all the sweeter. So yeah, and there'll be more misses. Like my dad has always told me, ever since I started deer hunting with him when I was a little kid, he said from the very get go, anybody who's hunted for a long period of time has had misses and they've lost animals before, whatever was
Right.
applicable to the scenario. And it's like, well, that's true. That's the ugly part of hunting that nobody wants to really embrace or accept. But that's part of it, unfortunately. But yeah, where'd you hold on the deer?
I put it right on him. So it was something I did for sure. And I'll take the one on that one. But yeah, it was something I put it right behind his shoulder and let it fly. And I don't, like I said, I don't know what I did. I did something. I couldn't tell you at this point. The things I've thought about of like what I could have done, I I finally had to just. I think it was like 2 weeks later, and I was telling my mom like, "Mom, I missed a coos deer." She was like, "Diego, just let it go already." I was just going over it and over it and over it and over it. I'd go out to our field. I'd range the target 54 yards, smoke the target, and I'd be like, "Man, I don't know what happened," but like I said, we'll keep shooting, and I'm sure we'll get another opportunity again. So
Do you
gotta stay at it.
do you practice on dots or on like animal 3D targets?
So I have a little bit of both. So I shoot. It kind of just depends what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If I wanna try and shoot with dad, we'll have little competitions, or even my cousins will have competitions, shoot 3Ds. But most of the time I'll just shoot at a dot on the regular target. But
I know practicing because like down here, like my whitetails are jumpy. That's just how
right,
these little Texas deer are. But I practicing on actual animal targets or of the vital signs of a deer or whatever I'm hunting, that always helps me too than shooting dots, because if you're shooting dots you get trained to focus on one spot in particular, whereas a target on an animal is more dynamic. It changes
right.
depending on the angle that you're at, looking at the animal, the angle that the animal's at, all that kind of stuff. So that's where I have gotten my best reps as far as understanding my shot placement. And then another thing that I kicked myself about on this last miss too was that I had just seen a video on social media about a guy
Right.
that was shooting. He was talking about where to hold and where to aim on a whitetail or a deer, and he was talking about holding low because of how jumpy they are, how they they'll duck, and all these other things to consider. He said when you come down from on top of your target down into your target, he said
Right.
even you're subconsciously actually going to more naturally hold higher than you might want to. So he was talking about how come up from underneath your target, which for me, back when I shot competitively, I never did that because
Right.
I just had this mind block where I couldn't come up from my target. I had to come down. So my whole life I've done that. But I started that week, I was like, all right, let's practice it. So I started practicing coming up from underneath and everything. And the very next week, I get a shot at a buck. And what do? I come down from the top like I always have, and I miss high. So
Really.
it comes down to just training for those different scenarios, and then being able to apply it in the field. That's another connection that you have to be able to make once you really start getting into that. I'm impressed, man, because you're talking to me about your first archery kill, and then hunting coos deer with a bow, and you're talking shots that are 40 and 50 some odd yards. That most people don't venture past 30 or 40 for years into archery.
Right.
So that's awesome. It's obvious that you're dedicated and you're putting the time in. So good for you, man.
Right, and you're talking about shooting 3D targets too. So I'm a shop shooter here for a local shop here. They're about 30 minutes away from my house, hit or miss archery center. So I get to shoot foam a lot too, and I think it's kind of funny. It's a whole different thing from competition to actual hunting. because anytime I shoot these courses, I don't have a target bow, but I'll just take my hunting bow and go shoot with these guys that have ultra view scopes, magnifiers, and I'll be shooting my hunting bow. And I think it'd kind of be hard, honestly, to go from shooting a target bow with your lens on it or whatever, and 3 stabilizers hanging off it to go and shooting your hunting bow, like I said. So I think that's really good for me too. Is I'll shoot these 3D courses with my hunting setup just to get me in check for when the actual hunt comes too. And at some point, hopefully, I can jump over to some competition too, because it's if you're not shooting a bow hunting like a bow hunt in class, and you're trying to compete up against those guys, I mean, they have a little bit of an advantage on you, of course, when they're shooting that compared to your hunting setup. But that, like you said, shooting 3Ds. And it's crazy too to me, shooting 3Ds, you'll go up from the shoulder and go right behind it, and you'll be like, all right, that's a kill shot on a deer. And you shoot it, and you're like, all right, that's a perfect kill shot on a deer. And you walk up, and you're 10 inches away from the 12 ring, because their rings are just a little bit. Some targets are kind of weird on where their ring setup is to a kill shot on an actual animal.
Yeah, that was honestly, I shot competitively for a very brief time. And I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but that was honestly a big reason that I stopped doing it, was because I was either shooting indoor competitions, and shooting paper, or I was
Right.
out on a 3D course where things didn't quite line up, where, in my opinion, I would want to be holding on an actual animal. And I
Right.
found that I was having trouble going back and forth, in the brief time that I did it. So I was like, you know what? I'm I'm a hunter. Like I'm gonna hunt. I'm not gonna keep
See?
pursuing the competitive. And I know that's not the case for everybody. I'm not trying to make it sound like, that's
Oh
the way
yeah.
it should be. I get there's a lot of great archers out there who can go back
Yeah,
and
there's
forth,
people
but
that can do it, but we're just not. I'm
it,
not
it's
one of
just
those
it's
guys
just it,
that
it wasn't
that
my cup of
do
tea,
that.
and I haven't gone back since. I've gone full force into the hunting side of it. But yeah.
Right. And like I said, I would want to probably set up a target setup and go do that too. But then at the same time, like you said, it's kind of weird. Like you shoot, I'd rather, if I was shooting up against somebody that was shooting like their target setup or whatever, I would rather shoot paper with those people than shoot 3D targets. You know what I mean? And I like shooting paper with my hunting setup, because I know where the X is on that one, of course, to where, like you said, and I feel like the rings are so much farther back on, like, when you're shooting competitive on a 3D target, or like you said, and then it's hard to go over. You're like, oh wait, aren't the rings a little bit back on a real one? You don't want to mess that up. So
Yeah.
like you said, I've just stuck to, it's not our cup of tea. I like that one.
Yeah, I get that. Man, I keep getting on these rabbit trails. I'm known for doing that on my show, but I want to finish your hunting season.
All right, so after we finished up the Coos one, we came home, and that was in January this year. Was that Coos deer hunt? February, we went out on a Barbary sheep hunt, and that was for sure. That was a good test for the crispy Nevadas to see what they were all about, because that hunt, Barbary hunting, is no joke. That is one thing where you're probably gonna have a headache by the end of the day, because you sat in the glass for so long.
Wow.
Because that's what a lot of Barbary hunting is glass, 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 until you find the herds of them, or even a couple of them, and pick them out. See, Barbary are hard, in my opinion. They're hard animals to judge for sure. And like I said, you wanna shoot a mature one. But me and Dad got after it. We were with some of our buddies. We seen a lot of sheep. That was a good one, because I was able to shoot that Barbary at 150 yards. And I don't think they knew what we were, because they just kept running at us and running at us. And they came a little too close and wanted to check it out a little bit too bad. I was able to shoot that one at 150 yards. And for sure, I'd rather shoot those close shots than I would those far shots, for sure.
Yeah.
And that one, we left Gina at home and took my dad's 7WSM, because there was no way I was carrying that big old heavy rifle up those mountains after I had already did it on the bear hunt. So
Yeah.
but that was a fun one. The pack out, me and Dad packed out that Barbary sheep, and it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man.
But that was the quest for Cinco. We completed all 5 of them, and we almost got an extra one in there, but weren't that lucky.
Wow. No, that's crazy, man. That's quite the accomplishment, especially for somebody, your age and everything. That's incredible. Awesome work. I wanted to I had a question too, because you mentioned earlier, you've talked a couple times just in passing about putting in for tags. You referenced that, and then you talked about we already discussed your desire to go archery only and everything. But at least where you hunt and in your world, if you will, um, what what's the best way to put it? Is there an advantage in opportunity with you being 15 opposed to an adult hunter as far as the tag opportunities that you have right now?
Um, to be completely honest with you, it's kind of free play for everybody, and I'm sure there's a lot of conflict on this, and there might be people that don't believe what I'm saying here,
Right.
but it's kind of just like there's a lot of people that have their own opinions on it, and it's I don't know how to explain or word it like you said, but I feel like there's youth. I wish New Mexico had a better. I wish they had more opportunity for youth hunters the way they do, and I wish they like some tags. There will be the youth hunt will be after the adult hunt, or like the youth hunt. I wish like I think it's deer. They should have the youth hunt in the rut. You know what I mean? To where they have it after the rut and the adult hunts in the rut. I wish New Mexico had a better system to where their youth we were giving the youth better opportunities than anybody else. Because I mean, yes, I want everybody to be able to have their opportunities too, but like you said, we gotta get the youth in there, and if they have a great experience the first time, they're gonna be like, "Holy smokes, hunting's awesome!" And of course, you're not gonna have a great experience the first time, but if you can get in there, see the most deer, see all the action happen, then for sure you're gonna be able to catch on to it right away and like it. Because if you don't catch on to it at a big thing for me is if you don't catch on to hunting right away at such a young age, like now 14, 15. I mean, yeah, you can still catch on to hunting, but by this time you're already like, oh, I'm into baseball or I'm into soccer, and you're diehard on that. So then you're like, hunting's kind of just another one of the hobbies. Like for me, last year was the last year I actually wrestled because I was like, no, I got to kick one of them out. And I feel like it could, so I still play baseball and then run main beam hunting, do all that stuff. But at some point, it's kind of like, if they haven't already caught on to it, they're kind of like, dang it, hunting's not one of my favorite things. Let's move on to something else. So
No.
that's kind of the way it is here. But
Yeah, for anybody, I agree with that. Anybody, youth especially, but I mean, I call it being an adult onset hunter as well, applicable to that as well for people in their 20s and 30s and 40s that are just now experiencing hunting. If you can start them off with a good opportunity, where they enjoy it. Maybe nothing's killed, but they enjoy it. They have a positive experience. They're more likely to latch on and want to do it again, And like my kids, we hunt whitetails on 807 acres down here, and we manage it down here in Texas. And on that 807 acres, we have 3 ponds on there, and they're stocked with fish, which you can argue literally fish in a barrel. But for kids that are 5, 6, 7 years old,
right.
what better place to get them started with fishing, where whenever you go out there for an hour or 2 hours and you catch all multiple fish, that's a positive experience for that's something that they're going to remember, and they're going to like it. They're going to enjoy fishing. They're going to want to pursue the next thing later on. Same with hunting. I took my son hunting for the very first time last year, and I went out there knowing I'm not going to shoot a deer in this hunt. In the back of my mind, I'm like, this is going to be the hunt the big boy walks out on, of course, which thankfully it wasn't. But, I took him to somewhere where I knew that we would see deer, because I wanted him not just to get bored sitting in a blind. I wanted him to be able to watch deer, and get excited about that kind of stuff. So I couldn't agree more. It's, we want to reinforce those positive experiences, and you don't want to give somebody a negative one to start off because it's going to deter them more.
Right.
So
sure.
I got two. I know we're getting close to an hour mark here, but I got 2 questions for you before we try to wrap it up. The first one, coming off of the heels of an incredible 23 hunting season, what is on the horizon for you for 24? What's that going to look like?
So right now, like I said, I'm just starting. So now is the actual start of the show season. So I'm just starting to get my goats in here now. But before that gets too heavy, of course, April's coming up. Turkey season here in New Mexico is going to start, and that's going to be a fun one. I can't wait. I'm going to try to get one with my bow for sure. So that'll be fun. Turkey with bow is for sure nothing easy, so yeah. I can't wait for that one. And then, of course, I haven't been a big shed hunter really, because we've just been like, if we're hunting, we're as hard as we hunt, usually we find 2 or 3 sheds a year. Not, of course, not browns, but we'll find chalkies walking up or whatever, and I'll bring them home. But this year, I wanna try and stack up some sheds this year. So that's one for sure. Before this turkey hunt, I think here in the next couple of weekends, I'm gonna try to go get some sheds, turkey hunts, and then New Mexico draw should come out here at the end of April. So we'll see how that goes. So that'll be a fun one. That deer tag in Arizona is still good until August, I believe. So that'll be a fun one. I think it might be good for past that too. So hopefully if I don't draw any tags here in New Mexico, we can go back and get a coos deer in Arizona, like I said. So those are my main plans for right now. Like I said, I was at the Western Hunt Expo in Utah, so that was one of the big plans this year. We were coos deer hunting. But yeah, hopefully there's more to come. Right now, it's kind of hard because I'm waiting to see what happens here in New Mexico before I venture out and see what else we can plan out. But for now, I'm going to see what New Mexico has for me and go from there.
Awesome, man. Good deal. Well, last one I got for you, and that's regarding MainBeam. Where are you going from here with the brand? Any big projects or anything big you're looking at for the immediate future?
Right now, I'm kind of just trying to push companies that support me, support who supports me, and keep on going with that. Hopefully, like I said, I'm gonna try and start the YouTube channel up. Here when we hit 10K, I'm almost to 10K on
I
Instagram,
noticed that.
so I'm
That's
super
awesome.
excited for that. Yeah, super excited. I think I got 500 more followers, and I've been pushing it hard. And then I'm gonna, like I said, I've gotten a couple things from these companies, and like Crispy, I can't wait to go run those new pair of boots. Like I said, I want to get out there this weekend and go try to find some sheds. Can't wait to run those new, they're the Valdez 2s and the Laponia Lights. They sent me out a pair of those before they dropped. And so I can't wait to get out there and run those. And then, of course, now that people are going to start harvesting more animals, I'll probably have some more Euro mounts coming in to do with that Bone Bright from Velvet Antler Technologies. And just going to keep trying to grow the brand and hopefully see where it goes from there.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, you're doing great stuff, and like I said, always impressed with your hard work at a young age and grinding away at it. Nice job.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Well, if it wasn't for people like you that supported it, we wouldn't be this big either, like I said. So.
Well, like we just said, man, we're all a community. Doesn't matter what state you're in or what you hunt. We're one big hunting community, and we need to be there to support each other. So.
Yes, sir.
Well, tell everybody listening to the show where they can find you and follow along.
So my website with all my apparel is MainBeamAddiction.com, and my Instagram is MainBeam_addiction. You can check my Facebook. It's MainBeam Addiction too, but I don't run that one very good. I don't know how to work Facebook very good, but if you guys want to check that one out, that is that one too. And like I said, my website's MainBeamAddiction.com with my apparel, and we're gonna have some new old school camo hoodies dropping soon with the new design. So look out for those ones.
Awesome, man. Well, buddy, thank you for coming on the show again. We'll do it again soon. We won't wait 3.5 years before the next one.
Sounds good. Yep. That'll work.
All right. Well, for our listeners tuning in, thank you guys for listening. If you're not already, be sure you are followed, subscribed, liked, all that good stuff on whatever podcast platform you're tuning in on. And with that, I will be back with you guys again next week for another podcast. Catch you then.